Hi, it's Alan here again, and welcome. Today's session we're going to have a look into some upper body self-massage techniques. So it's a particularly useful tool and some techniques that you can use not only for your own benefit but also to share with those that you know, whether it's friends, family members or just colleagues. So very simply, basically what we're looking to do is use some tennis balls and a ball in a sock to release the muscles of the upper back, the chest, the mid back and the lower back and the surrounding areas, i.e. the shoulder joints. So just like the lower body self-massage tutorial that I've taken you through already, we're going to focus on working through stage by stage, and the section's going to come into two areas. First of all, we're going to use some wall space, so making sure that you've got a little bit of room around you to work. So you don't need a massive amount of space. It can be done at home, you can do it at work, or anywhere that you find a bit of wall without any obstructions. Secondly, what you're going to need for round two is a mat on the floor, which we're going to head to after we've done the wall. Equipment wise, you can see today I am using a particular massage ball. You don't necessarily need one of these. You could use a tennis ball, a lacrosse ball, a cricket ball, or anything you've got laying around at home to give it a go. I will warn you in advance, the harder the ball, the less forgiving it is, and therefore I'd always recommend starting with a tennis ball, see how you find it, and if you don't feel that it's giving you enough pressure, even once you've headed onto the floor, then feel free to progress onto something a little bit more firmer. Secondly, I'm going to need a long sock. So you can see there's nothing special about it, it's just a sock that will enable me to dangle it over my shoulder, being able to reach into the different areas that I need to target today. Last but not least, what I've got is two tennis balls that I've taped together. I've used electrical tape in this instance, but you don't necessarily need to do that. You can use anything you find. I wouldn't necessarily go with sellotape or masking tape or parcel tape because they won't have the strength or the adhesion, but if you've got gaffer tape, duct tape or any sort of heavier duty tape, feel free to tie them up using the figure of 8 movement, getting a bit of strength into the middle and then back to the figure of 8. So it'll probably take you about 10 or 15 minutes, costing less than a couple of quid, and it's an investment I'd highly recommend. It's great, as you've seen before, for hips, legs, lower legs, etc. But it's particularly good for allowing access to get up and down the spine, which is where we're going to start today. So to begin with, I'm going to take the balls, placing them into the lower back area to begin with, bringing the feet forward slightly and making sure that your initial contact against the wall is comfortable. So from here, taking nice deep breathing, relaxing into it as best as you can and getting a feel for the initial pressure that you're starting with. From this position, bringing the feet forwards a little bit. Now the further forward you go, the more pressure you're going to exert into the muscles. So it's important that you work at a level that's right for you and you don't go too crazy. If you have got a particular back pain that you're working with, obviously listen to your body, apply very light pressure to begin with. If it doesn't feel good, do not continue. But for those of you that are okay, trying to keep the torso as upright as we can, we're just going to gently roll through a few inches at a time. So we're just keeping the arms relaxed at this point. Nice controlled movement. And if we find any area that feels particularly tender or feels like it needs some work, we're just going to rest and hold. So nice deep breathing, try and relax into it as much as you can. Feel those muscles releasing, feel that tension dissipating. And if you started at an 8 or a 9 out of 10 on the discomfort scale, we just want to find that gradually reducing throughout the course of the 30 seconds to 2 minutes, which is the recommended time for each hold. Okay, once you're ready, we're going to begin rolling again. So feel free to work a little bit slower We'll really try and find those areas that your body needs attention to today. For the purposes of the video and the tutorial, I'm going to run you through it so you know what to look for and you know the areas that we're looking to target. Okay, so we're just going to work through stage by stage, and again, any areas that feel a little bit tender, we're just going to rest and hold. So we don't want to give the legs a workout necessarily, especially for those of you that might be a little bit unstable or any knee, ankle or hip complaints. Try and keep the range of motion relatively small. And again, we're just going to rest there for a few moments. If you do find there's an area that needs a little bit of a deeper release, what we can do is just gently allow the body to fold forwards and come back up slowly, allowing the vertebrae to stack one at a time. Okay, so again, listening to your body, paying attention to how it feels on your back. If it feels okay, we can slowly go down and hold there. So we're stretching the lower back muscles whilst we've got the tennis balls in position, providing a bit of a deeper release. The next technique that we can do is lift the arm up, over to the side and forwards. And again, that's going to provide us with a little bit of a deeper stretch into that lower back area, whilst we're holding the tennis balls in there to really get a deep release into that muscle. Okay, so we're going to do one more on each side. So flexing forwards, flexing to the side, really reaching that hand. Fantastic. Last one. So remember, we're always employing that deep abdominal yogic breathing that we're looking for. We don't want to hold the breath in the lungs or the upper chest. We don't want to try and hold the breath or tense up when we're doing the exercises, okay? So we've started here today. We've worked into that lower back area. I'm just going to reposition the balls a little bit higher up the spine. Again, paying attention to make sure we've got a tennis ball either side of the spine. Okay, trying to keep the balls as level as you can. And when you're ready, again, back into that movement. So systematically, stage by stage, we're working through the spine. So nice deep breathing. And again, if you find an area that feels like it's got a bit of tension to it, we rest, we hold, we deep breathing. Now it's worth noting at this point, sometimes people get into the habit of pushing their knees forwards too much, which normally comes from people having their feet here and doing that, okay? Remember, take your feet out to a comfortable level, whichever stance that you like, so it can be narrow or wider. The wider your stance, the more comfortable it's going to be and the more balanced you'll feel. But remember, it's a small movement from the knees and from the hips. If we tend to push the hips forwards, it's going to look like this, and you can see the back won't necessarily enjoy that, neither will the knees. Drop the hips down, push into the feet, come back up. So just like so. So everybody's going to be different. Remember, if you find tension, you rest, you hold. And as we start getting into the mid to upper back areas, what we can do is again reaching forwards, but this time really stretching, getting the shoulder blades moving as well. So if you know your anatomy a little bit better, if you know which muscles you wanted to target, feel free to bring different reaches in, different holds. And the ultimate goal really is to get that release nice and deep whilst we're relaxing. So always breathing. If you're going for this position, feel free to drop the head, bring the chin down towards the chest, and then back. Fantastic. I'm going to reposition a little bit higher again. So this process, we'd follow it all the way up from the lower back down at the sacrum, all the way through to the neck. When we get to the neck, we've got to be particularly careful because it's a little bit more delicate than the rest of the spine. Okay, so again, repositioning, going to go for that mid-back area. So just working in between the shoulder blades now. So again, relaxing the arms and the shoulders. Nice controlled movements. So it's just like giving yourself a massage. Very cost effective, very empowering as well. That's it. So paying attention to your hip position, keeping your body quite close to the wall. Excellent. Good job, folks. Nice steady breathing now. And if you find another area, remember, feels like I've got a little bit of a knot there, a little bit of tension. I'm probably about 7 or 8 on that discomfort scale. I'm going to hold, deep breathing. And what I can do here, again, I know which muscles I want to target. I'm going to reach one arm forwards, but across the body at the same time. So I'm looking at where my hand goes, bringing it back into the other side. Oh yeah, that's interesting. So remember, the more interesting something gets, the more you need to work it. So these are the main focus points for us today. Releasing those trigger points, looking for the tension in the muscles, feeling it just lengthen, relax. So it's great to do this self-massage, especially if you sit at a desk all day, or you do a lot of driving, or a lot of sitting down. So it just helps to realign the spine. And it's fantastic to do before you get into a yoga sequence also. So if you're doing your yoga practices and you've got a bit of free time, or you wanted to give it a go, I'd highly recommend trying out some self-massage to find the areas that are particularly tender or tight on yourself. Spend a bit of time working on them and then try your yoga practice and you'll see a massive difference. Right, last but not least, with the double tennis balls into the neck. And again, start with a very light pressure, up and down, and that feels great. So you can work all the way up to that lower part of the skull, up and down. And again, if you feel like you need a little bit more pressure, bring the feet out, but don't push the hips forwards. We're not looking for that. Hips back, abdominals braced, and just gently dropping in and out. Okay, this time, if I do feel an area is particularly tight or tender, what I can do is just shift the gaze of the eyeballs left and right, as well as up and down. Okay, so it's taking your time with it. Not necessarily moving the head around too much here. When we move the eyes, it's going to affect the muscles in this area also. Excellent. Fantastic. So that covers the double tennis ball up and down the wall along the length of the spine. So you can see there we've worked through stage by stage. Okay. Next up, we're going to move on to the ball in the sock. Right, so now that you've got a bit of a feel for the double tennis balls up against the wall, that's the first tool that we're going to have a look into today. I'll say it's great for mobilising the spine and really getting into those muscles that lay down the length of the spine, from lower to mid to upper back. Now I know for some of you, you might have been doing the exercise and thinking, well, it doesn't quite feel like it's getting that spot that I've been looking for, or I'd like to get a little bit more specific and really pinpoint those areas that need some attention today. So in that case, we move on to the ball in the sock. Okay? So all we're going to do is pop the ball into the sock to begin with, making sure that it's not a too thick a sock. So you don't want your winter woolies. You want to have a sock that's got a bit of a thinness to it, but still provides a good adhesion and it's not too shiny or slippery. Okay? So it's for this reason, I wouldn't necessarily recommend using stockings or tights because they might be a little bit too shiny and a bit too slippery. Okay? The idea of the ball in the sock is what we're going to do. I'm going to work into my left shoulder. In order for me to do that, I'm going to place the ball over the left shoulder and hold the sock with the right hand. Now that's very important. If you do decide that you're going to work left shoulder and left hand, you can see there straight away my shoulder's going to ride up. I'm going to create some tension. I'm not going to get an effective release on that area. Okay? You will also notice that I might not be able to get all the way down to the lower back by targeting using this way. Okay? So what we do, if we wanted to get into those lower back muscles, if they felt like they need some more individual attention, is just place the ball up against the wall, as so, and work from there. Okay? So that's where I'm going to begin today, just into the lower back area. Now sometimes you can find there's a small muscle that connects your spine to the actual pelvis. It's called quadratus lumborum, and that can hold quite a bit of tension. So be careful, don't roll on the actual spine itself. All we're going to do now is just gently rotate the pelvis. So you can see there, my right pelvis has gone forwards. I've angled my body slightly into that lower back area, and I'm just going to hold. Okay, again, don't put too much pressure, but for those of you that want to go a little bit deeper, feel free to exert a little bit more. Just be very careful. So again, always breathe in nice and deeply. Filling up those lungs, controlling the exhale. Excellent. So if you need to bring that right foot forwards more, the left foot back a little bit, feel free to adjust your feet. And again, making sure that your body ultimately feels comfortable. So for those of you that want to increase it, again I highly recommend not going too deep here. Forward folding slightly from the spine and just holding there is going to provide a bit of a deeper stretch. Again, if you want to increase, or as well as the flexion forwards, I can flex over towards the right hand side. So when we're doing these exercises on the other side of the body, which I'm not going to cover today, you need to repeat the same movements but the opposite way around. And naturally, you might find there's a bit of a variation of right versus left, which is completely normal. Okay, so once you've had a go there, again, feel free to have a little bit of a roll up and down, getting into that lower back. Fantastic. Right, so that's briefly the lower back muscle. You can repeat the same process, mid-back. I'm just going to cover one area in particular on the mid-back that's of a great interest to many of you. So I'm going to hold the ball, position it where I need it to be, which is in between the shoulder blade and the spine. Okay, so when I'm in that position, I can really get into those muscles a little bit deeper by exposing the one that's hidden underneath the shoulder blade. In order for me to do that, I need to reach across and forwards. Okay, so you can see there, that brings a new area into being exposed that I'm now able to target. So again, position yourself ready for that mid-back. This time, because we're using the single ball, I'm going to gently roll side to side as a gentle swaying movement to get an initial feel for it. I can also employ some small circling movements, okay, keeping it quite tight and quite localised. But again, that's quite nice, and that can give a really good deep massage if you need it. Remember, if you're doing that, you might also enjoy going anti-clockwise as well as clockwise. Of course, we've got the release and hold. So coming back to that, really breathing into it, feeling that tension releasing. Trying to relax into it as best as we can. And then when you're ready, if you want to get into that deeper area, be warned, it can be a little bit tender. Hand across the body, just rolling into that newfound muscle that usually hides underneath the shoulder blade. So if you're interested, the name of it is serratus posterior. Like I say, for a lot of people it can be pretty interesting. It starts getting a bit tender, but remember, nice deep breathing, relax into it, feel that tension release. And of course, smile. Show your friends and family and colleagues that you're really enjoying this self-massage. Excellent. So again, feel free to spend a little bit longer there if you need to, but we've covered the mid back, we've had a look at the lower back, and now we're going to work towards the outside edge. So again, I'm just going to point out quickly, we're looking to target the area towards the outside edge of the shoulder blade, the muscle that sits directly on top of the shoulder blade, as well as above. So the area above, a lot of people, especially if you spend time on the computer, driving, or if you feel that you get really stressed and really tense, people can tend to hold the tension in their shoulders and upper back muscles, okay? Doesn't generally do your posture many favours, and it can result in problems. People often get referred pain and tension into their neck, and potentially tension headaches as well. It's a big problem in this day and age. So we're going to have a look into those areas next. So first of all, I'm going to begin on the outside edge of the shoulder blade, keeping your left arm relaxed, holding the sock with the right arm, and rolling through side to side. So remember, watch out for any bony areas. You might find they're a bit too tender, and we don't want to roll the bone because it's not going to give us a release, and it could potentially leave bruising if you go too mad. All we're looking for is that meaty part, that muscle that lays on top of the shoulder blade itself. Okay, so again, try and keep the shoulder relaxed. It's no good if we're up there somewhere. And if we find an area that, oh yeah, there we go, got one there. If we find one of those sweet spots that we're looking for, just got to hold in position, lift the arm up and down to shoulder height a few times. Maybe encouraging yourself to have a little bit of external rotation and turning the palm facing up also. And that can add a nice bit more of a release into it. And of course, reaching gently across the body, bringing the arm back and forth. And that can also give you a lovely release today. Okay. So for those of you that feel like you need it as well, what we can do is target the muscles here and here with an up-down movement to the arm. So I'm just going to demonstrate that quickly. If I position the ball just at the lower edge of my shoulder blade, just at the tip, and then bring an arm lift and lowering movement into it. So we will be repeating this sequence on the floor for those of you that need a little bit more pressure, and I need to cover how to safely set yourself up. So work to a level that feels about right for you today, but if you do find at a later date you wanted to progress onto the floor, that's going to be there as an option for you as well. Okay, moving on, we're just into the upper back area, into that trapezius, upper trapezius and supraspinatus, just laying there, gently rocking side to side across the top of that shoulder blade, above the shoulder blade area. Okay, so being careful of the bones, the top of the shoulder blade, the spine, and finding any areas that got tension. So it's worth mentioning here, it can be a little bit tricky. You might find that the ball in the sock tries to pop out from above the shoulder quite often. So don't go too crazy with the pressure, just in case it pops out. We generally bring the feet forwards a little bit, keeping the body in a straight line from the ankles to the shoulders and the hips, all in a line, keeping the abdominals braced, and just going for small movements. There you go, brilliant. So keeping that arm nice and loose. And again, if I want to add a reach into it, I can reach forwards and down, I can reach across the body, I can bring the arm back to relaxed. Okay, so really stretching forwards, feeling that muscle really releasing. Again, deeper and deeper. If you need to exert some more pressure, exert some more pressure. Fantastic, good job folks. Almost there. Excellent. So again, just repositioning side to side, see if there's any tension left. And again, deep breathing into it. So remember, once you've done one side of the body, do the other side. You'll be surprised quite often what a difference there is. And in the areas you might think, okay, the left, I've got a lot of tension. You find the same area on the right and it might not have as much tension. So you'll get to learn a lot about your body. And by the end of all the self-massage stuff, you can pick out the areas that are most relevant to you and build your own sequence into your routine, which I'd encourage you to do at least twice a week, if you can, 3 times. Okay, fantastic. That pretty much wraps up ball in sock up against the wall, as well as the double tennis balls. We're going to head over to the floor now and have a go at the double tennis balls and the ball in sock with a bit more pressure. See you then.